Good morning, Buffalo. Thank you for tuning in to Eastside Parkways Radio, where we come together every Saturday morning to discuss the future of a fully restored Humboldt Parkway, connecting Delaware Park to MLK Park. I'm your host for today, Madeline Callanan, and I'm joined by special in-studio guests, Stephanie and Tammy Lee. Stephanie is a teacher, Tammy is a nurse, and we have a very special call-in guest, Dr. Witherspoon, who is the Executive Director of the Children's Environmental Health Network from Washington, D.C. Good morning, Dr. Witherspoon.
Good morning. It's such a pleasure to join you.
Thank you so much for getting on today. Could you give us a little bit of a background of Children's Environmental Health Network?
I'd be happy to. Yeah, I've had the honor of serving as the Executive Director of this amazing organization for almost 25 years now. We got our start out in the Bay Area of California in the late 80s. Not surprising, and it was healthcare professionals, in particular pediatricians, nurse practitioners, who were recognizing that they were misdiagnosing some of their youngest patients at the time. What we now know is that they were looking at children that were exposed to lead, changing their brains, that they were exposed to pesticides and mercury, which also have cause a lot of damage to regular child development. So our mission has always been the same, to protect all children from environmental hazards and exposures, and making sure that the places that they spend the most time, homes, childcare, schools, just to name a few, are healthy and conducive to their learning and growth and development.
That's amazing. Thank you for the work that you do. Looking at your resume was very impressive, so thank you for serving the children.
Of course.
Stephanie, you're a Buffalo Public School teacher. How do you see the impact of health on children related to Humboldt Parkway?
Good morning. I've noticed throughout the years that there's been an increased cases of asthma, and it seems like there has been, like she said, there's been it affects their brains. The attention span is very short, so you have to work quickly and faster. And as each year goes by, I find myself dealing with that. Each year, it's where the attention span, I have to always be quick and fast. And I'm getting older, so to try to keep up and catch up, it could be challenging, but, it's delightful to work with the children, but it's something else to just hear what I've just heard, because it makes sense, because I'm seeing it. And I thank you for stepping up to the cause and digging deeper to find out what's causing it. Dr.
Absolutely.
Witherspoon.
Is that something that you see as well as a nurse, Tammy?
Well, I normally work with the older adults, but maybe Dr. Witherspoon can expound on this, but it seems like within the last 10 years, we have seen more children diagnosed with being autistic. So I'm wondering if that's probably related to the lead poisoning and other things that she has discovered.
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump in. The backdrop here is really important. My training is in public health. I'm very passionate about protecting little people who were never expected or wanted to be born into a situation that would harm them, right? So I really get adamant about being a champion for them. And by the way, I'm from Buffalo. I still have family in Buffalo. I grew up in the Amherst area. My sister and her family live right off of the Humboldt Parkway. So all of this is very near and dear to my heart. But yeah, the backdrop is really important here. 40% of school-aged children and adolescents have at least one chronic health condition, and most have many. So you're starting right there. That's childhood asthma. That's childhood cancer. Childhood cancers have been rising steadily for the last 50 years. Genetics do not move like that. That right there is showing us that there are other components of some of these chronic illnesses that are not being taken into priority as they should be. But when it comes to other chronic illnesses, diabetes, certainly our learning abilities, autism spectrum disorder, these all are challenges that our science continues to show us from the National Institutes of Health and world-renowned science that there's at least 25 to 40% potential of environmental contributions to this rise in childhood chronic illnesses. So that backdrop is really important before any insults that children are exposed to in the spaces that they spend a lot of time in.
Now, you just touched on a question that I had for you because I was actually recently having a conversation through text. My mother was having a conversation with someone about Humboldt Parkway and about restoring Humboldt Parkway, and I was kind of helping her through text. And I asked her, well, you know, how do these people feel about the impact of health on the community? And the response was that, you know, maybe there are multiple different factors, so they weren't so sure how removing the highway and turning it into a parkway would have a positive impact on health. Can you talk about that from, you know, your public health perspective?
No, I totally agree. And in fact, history has shown us when we have seen better, when we, you know, we've always made mistakes. There have been mistakes certainly in our public health system. But when we see missteps, we are supposed to correct those. And in our area, in the Western New York area, we have seen examples where Rochester, for example, looked at, you know, how they moved around and how they adjusted and how what they have done and changing their thoroughfare actually formed a connection and a sense of place and slowing down the traffic and had many positives rather than just resorting to a tunnel. Same thing with Houston, Detroit. Their communities committed to replacing stretches of their interstate with more connected, walkable neighborhoods, which had many positive benefits health-wise, in addition to reducing the known pollutants that come as a result of increased or current transportation. And the hard reality is there's lots of, again, related exposures in science and information on what is released from the tailpipe of a diesel car, truck, or moving vehicle. And there is this PM 2.5 in particular, air pollutant, that's one of the worst for any of us to be exposed to. And you're talking about lots of deep penetration into the lungs of anyone, especially a young child, which causes lots of health challenges, in addition to many other air pollutants that certainly would exacerbate asthma, would definitely cause harm to a child that already deals with upper respiratory issues, or any immunocompromised person or adult for that matter. So the last thing I think I would guide is that we get into a situation where we know better and where we know there's going to be more exposure and where we know as a result many populations, especially vulnerable populations like children, will suffer.
Absolutely.
Yes.
C is pretty basic, right?
Right. Well, I love how you talk about how, I think Nelson Mandela, and you refer to his quote about how you can learn a lot from a society about how we treat our children, right?
Yes.
And I mean, I couldn't agree more. I got into teaching, I'm a fourth grade teacher, and I got into teaching from that perspective, that social justice perspective of, I mean, if we can't treat the children right, like that's the bottom line, right? And I've done a lot of work with Humboldt Parkway and my students, and I find that the students really understand everything that I think you understand at this high scientific level. They kind of understand at an innate level. When you just explain to them living on a highway versus living on a parkway, it is basic to them, right? Because they just see it. They see how they feel in nature and how versus how you feel being on a highway.
It's so true. And we innately, just as humans, I mean, we learned this during the COVID pandemic in a hard way, right? Even if you're an introvert, we are supposed to be around people, and nature is a healing effect, actually. And what did we see during the COVID pandemic? A lot of people were actually prescribed and or encouraged, or also had the personal benefit of just stepping outside, being in green space, being in a park, reducing anxiety. We all gain benefits from connecting with nature, and that also has evidence to show. So, yes, it's not surprising to me that our youngest of people have to remind us as adults how important and fundamental it is to not destroy, but rather think about how can we move and do the things that we need to do, but in a way that is not harmful to people, planet, animals, and maybe could even encourage connectivity and community rather than divisiveness. And when I look at that Humboldt Parkway, even growing up, it cuts right through a set of communities, right? Churches, places of worship, schools, childcare, housing, the beautiful science museum right there. I mean, Buffalo has so much to offer. Why would we squander that, I guess, is what I have asked myself. When we do have the means, it's not like it's cheap to change your transportation system, but when we do have the means to do it, let's be proactive and do this in a community way and really learn from decades of experiences around the country of how things could be done better so that we can still get what we need, but again, not in a harmful way.
Right, and we're at this incredible point where we have to do something, right? Those retainer walls need to be either taken down or repaired. So we really need to take advantage of this time. Coming up on this Tuesday, the 16th, the Department of Transportation is doing another listening session. So anyone who's local, we encourage you to go and to make your voice heard about what you want to see done with Humboldt Parkway. A friend and I were just doing a lit drop along Humboldt right at the Science Museum and going north from there, and it could just the whole time we were thinking, imagine if we were walking on the Parkway right now. We brought my dogs and we were just having a nice stroll, but it's just the sound of that highway, and to be exposed to that all of the time. And there are schools, there are daycare centers in that area.
And hospitals.
Hospitals.
I think Buffalo really has a true opportunity here to not only provide amazing leadership and community and health saving strategies here for the short and long term, but also Buffalo could be seen as a great national example. Organizations like mine look often for how we can exemplify and lift up positive, forward-moving efforts that other states and cities are desperately also looking for, and elected officials are always asking us, what have you seen? What are some better model practices that we could be working in to our policy making? So I think there's nothing but opportunity here, and yet there is the threat of getting this all wrong, unfortunately. And our health and our children's health will display how we do, one way or the other.
Absolutely. Miss Lee, did you address Humboldt Parkway with students this year?
I did.
How was that?
That was interesting because when I brought up footage from YouTube for them to look at and become familiar with it. And they, okay, I've been on there before. I've seen it before. And then I talked to them about the tunnel. And one of the children looked at me and said, but wait a minute. So what if it snows? How do you get out? You know, the questions that they had and how it connected to them and how it didn't, like you said before, it didn't make sense to them to actually put a tunnel there. He said, it's why would they want to do that? Why would they want to put a tunnel there? So on a field trip, we had to take the expressway. And I wasn't thinking. And then all of a sudden, one of the children said, isn't this the expressway? Because we were traveling across it.
Okay.
And I wasn't thinking about it, but he connected it. And it's like, wow, it really sticks with them. So I will show them footage, and right now we're going to be doing an opinion letter or an opinion writing. So I'm going to direct them into that. Even though it's Christmas, I'm going to try to connect that to the writing piece as well, because I think I'd like to expand more on it, and I'd like to see what they're thinking and how they're thinking and where their mindset is. So it's interesting to hear it from a child's point of view.
Right. I mean, talk about real world learning, community
Exactly.
connection. Absolutely. Dr. Witherspoon, there's an event that your organization hosts every fall. Is that right?
Yes, Children's Environmental Health Day.
I'm seeing some connections here.
Yeah, it's always every Thursday, second Thursday, of the month of October, which is Child Health Month. We started it a decade ago, so we just passed the 10th anniversary this past October. And it's simply just a day of action, right? It's not the only day out of 365, but it is a day for accountability for all of us to, first of all, brush ourselves off a little bit, This work can be very challenging. I certainly have my frustrating days. Our office is right on Capitol Hill. I look around often and say, why do we have to work so hard? We should not have to work so hard to show and make the case and be a champion for children in the year 2025 with all the information that we have in front of us, and yet we still have to work really hard. And with that said, there are so many wonderful efforts happening in Buffalo, in New York, across the country. And that day becomes a day to showcase what our partners are out there doing in academia, in community, in even sustainable business. I mean, what our youth are leading. Our youth, much younger than me, are leading tremendously important, wonderful work. Many are starting their own nonprofits in middle school and high school, right? So that's a day for all of us to brush off, call successes, share resources, learn about tools that we can then use as we move into the next year. And we also gather proclamations. So Children's Environmental Health Day proclamations that last 12 months, and it becomes another tool in our collective toolkits as we're talking to elected leaders, as we're talking to policymakers, as we're talking to those that are setting public health policy. If you're talking to school boards, right, and they need some guidance, and just trying to work within the systems we have so that we're not necessarily causing friction, but that there's always a way to enhance what we do and how we do it, and making sure it's not a burden or a challenge to vulnerable populations like children. So if anyone's interested, cehn.org, and you can just go to the top and drop down Children's Environmental Health Day. Everyone is always welcome to be a partner.
That's fantastic. It sounds like, Miss Lee's project of writing opinion letters on the Parkway and some work that I've done with my students would fit really well into that day. Even something that we could, start working on now to lead up to a day of action.
And just so you know, it doesn't only have to be on that day. We are willing to work with you and your students at any point, and we have lots of frameworks and template letters and things like that just to make life a little easy. I know it's, everyone's got full plates, especially you as a teacher, I'm sure. So whatever we can do to lighten your load and maybe start a template off and allow your students to kind of find their own voice and finish it off. It doesn't even have to only be on that day, and we welcome you at any point, and certainly as partners for Children's Environmental Health Day for sure.
Thank you. To go back real quick to my comment about the retainer walls, something needs to be done, right? So we have a message here in that it's not a matter of repairing them. It's actually a matter of they're so far gone that they would actually need to be entirely removed. And in order to do that, build a massive soldier pile and lagging wall. I'm not sure what that is from one of our members, in order to hold back the earth so they can fully remove the existing massive concrete walls and then rebuild them. So that would be $1 billion straight into the ground to have a highway again. I think when we know better, we do better. And it sounds like I'm hearing you with this message of we do know better. And so we need to do better. We have the science, we have the research, we have the data. We know that we don't want to spend $1 billion taking down concrete walls to build new concrete walls. And who knows what that's doing. I mean, we do know what that's doing to the community in the meantime.
Speaking of
any structure, any infrastructure that is encouraging more driving. When I moved to the Maryland, D.C. area, I remember the big Woodrow Wilson Bridge did a big expansion, and it went on for many years. It goes over the Potomac River. And the idea was, by expanding into more lanes, will, of course, help with the bottleneck. Well, surprise, surprise, that never really happens. What happens is more people start driving because somehow they see it as maybe a better outlet or a different option. So what we're all trying to do out here is trying to actually reduce the amount of driving that people are doing and trying to increase other modes of transportation when it is possible, as well as the type of vehicles that we are all driving. That's really what those of us in public health are trying to aim for, because we do know that the pollutants that come out of the tailpipe are causing lots of challenges related to heart issues, related to respiratory issues, brain development. I mean, so the last thing, again, that we would want to promote is supporting an infrastructure that is cutting through regularly, on a regular basis, at high speeds. We also all know the high amount of traffic accidents that are more at risk when you have a situation where, high-speed vehicles are moving, and usually moving even at times higher than the projected speed limit. So by slowing down traffic, by potentially considering a parkway or whatever the community would like to propose, there are so many co-benefits, planting more trees, again, like you said earlier, using that space along that entire corridor, and really getting innovative about how people can use it as walking, to get out and to actually be a part of their community, and not just they and anyone else driving through the city, in one purpose without any other connection or ways to really get a sense of what's going on and having a chance to slow down a little bit.
Perfectly said. I get chills when you speak.
So the right decision now will help our grandchildren. And we also see the effect that they had on the 198. They reduced the speed on that from, we had 55, but we're doing 65 on the 33. But they reduced the speed down to 30, and they have noticed significant improvements because of that.
Miss Maddie, did you tell us, or did you talk about your book?
No, I haven't.
Let's discuss that. It's a beautiful book.
Yeah, I'll do a quick plug in the couple minutes we have left. So I'm writing a book for children, a picture book. It's illustrated by a local artist, Polly, and it tells the story of Frederick Law Olmsted, how he had the vision to create this beautiful parkway, and then it got torn up, and that we're at a critical period right now where the community gets to decide what we see next. And that'll be coming out hopefully in the spring.
It's beautiful.
We have about 3 minutes left here, Dr. Witherspoon. Is there anything that you wanted to add that we didn't ask or didn't touch on?
Well, I just thank you for the time, and I really, really appreciate the many years now that the community has been working together. I think that's always has a positive, and I really do hope that local elected leaders are listening, the transportation leaders are listening to the will of the people. Again, in my experience, community members know best what they need and how they need it. And to your point of the dollars being spent, I would just make the case that it is always much more cost effective to prevent illness than to treat it. And, we do know that Buffalo is home to world-class medical institutions. The question is, how far do we want to go? I mean, it's great to have treatment when needed, but when we can prevent, I think we'd want to do that too. So when there are known challenges and known decisions right in front of us, we are at a crossroads as a community to decide, do we go backwards and avoid what's in front of us as far as best practices and what we know will be better off for the health of our community, or do we choose a different path, which therefore I know will return much better residual benefit for the overall Buffalo community.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It really has been an honor to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time and for everything that you've done for the children in our country and our community. I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my honor. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. We hope to see everyone at the Department of Transportation's listening session coming up on Tuesday, the 16th from 5 to 7 p.m. You can follow Queen City Forward online. They're on Instagram. They have a website, and that's where you can keep up with the DOT to make sure that your voice is heard regarding the future of Humboldt Parkway. So thank you, Miss Lee and Miss Lee. And, of course, Dr. Witherspoon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.